So on the left is what I think you might be now, which is confused about UX, maybe interested in starting a career in UX. And I'm going to give you a presentation. We're going to go through 7 steps. And by the end of the hour, hopefully you're going to be the one on the right and you're going to know something about it and you want to get into it. It's a really brilliant career. We've got a guest speaker today as well, Shabia. So she's my friend and she works with me in Cisco, and she's going to really help you guys when it comes to figuring out how to build your portfolio. So she's going to present a little bit later on. I'm going to walk through the first steps, and these are the 7 steps that we're going to go through. So we're going to talk about the basics. So everyone here is probably on different levels, and there's probably loads of things that you might be too embarrassed to ask. And I really don't mind. I'm going to cover over the basics, so we're all on the same level playing field. Then I'm going to talk about UX design tools, which ones professionals use, and which ones are my favorites, whether they're free or paid for. We're going to go through them so you can all get up and running. Then we're going to go over your portfolio, which is very important. So I'm presuming here people don't have any experience. We're going to show you how to build a portfolio, how to get it together, what tools you use. Shabia is going to explain to you how she built hers. Then we're going to go over some example projects, how they're put together in the portfolio. And then Shabia is going to share her case study using Google standards, how you can write up your work and how you can share it with people. Then I'm going to talk about some self-promotion, how you can let people know that you exist. We're going to talk about LinkedIn, we're going to talk about YouTube, and then at the end we're going to talk about finding a job, and we're going to share some advice, for you about how to share a job. So let's start. I'm going to talk about the basics. I can see Shabia's got a hand up, but I don't know how to use Zoom properly, so I don't even know how to get her to say something. But if you guys have any questions during this, please drop them into the chat, and we'll get to the Q&A at the end. So if Shabia's there, do you want to just unmute and say hello before we start?
Yeah, it's like it's to auto-mute for some reason. Hi, yeah, I'm Shabia, and Anthony, we're kind of friends and we work together and stuff. And yeah, so we'll be talking about UX, and I'll go through the portfolio in depth. And the portfolio is really important because it really helps you get your first job, not your first job. And it's unlikely you'll get an interview without having like some work to show. So yeah, and any questions around that, just drop them in the chat.
Right, so I think my audio is a bit delayed, so I can see Shabia stop speaking. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the basics. So let's get through this. So UX is short for user experience design, and basically what it means is in its essence, you're designing for screens. So you're designing for computers and you're designing for apps. Most probably you're designing websites, and that's all it is. And I'll talk about UI in a second, but UX is really the human interaction between the person and the device. And it's summed up pretty nicely in this one. And it's talking about UX designer focuses on the interaction between users of digital products and the thing. But UX is much more than a lot of people see what UX designers produce in the end, which is essentially you produce something which you can give to developers to build a website. So you're almost, imagine an architect draws up plans, and the people who build the plans, in the end, the builders, but and what a UX designer produces could be, sometimes it's called the wireframe. It's like a basic sketch of a website, or it could be anything up to a high fidelity prototype, what me and Shabia make.
Yeah.
And but UX is a lot more than that. It's about, someone will come to you with an idea, normally because you're hired to work for people, and they'll say, I've got this website, but you as a UX designer, you need to think, okay, does this actually make sense? What is the purpose of the website? Who is the audience for the website? Is the website solving a problem? Is there a business problem to be solved? And you need to make sure the whole things make sense, because a lot of the time, some projects have big holes in them, and this is really where the skill of a designer comes in. It's understanding how digital products are made, understanding the whole ecosystem, and then making sure that it's solid. So when it goes live, it's an actual real thing. And we'll talk more about the different steps and what UX designers produce. But UX design is a lot more than just design. It's really thinking about who the users are, and then making sure that the thing that you build for them actually solves a problem and is any good. So this is also just a quick example of a wireframe, but to get to that, it takes a long time and understand it. And the only reason wireframes are shown a lot is because they're quick to do and you can throw them away. But UX design, it could be anything up to high fidelity, which is what we produce. Then UI design. So you'll have heard about UI design, and UI design is essentially screen design. So it's taken what the UX designer's produced, which is all the work up until they've got something, and then it's laying it out in nice detail, and it's making sure that it looks great. It's using fonts, it's using different color styles, it's using UI kits, which we'll talk about, and it's putting it all together and making a screen design. So this is the design part of it, UI design, which stands for user interface design. And sometimes these are different jobs. You can have UX design jobs and you can have UI design jobs. And this sums up nicely here. I'm going to share this in the chat a little bit later on if you want to download it, or you might have got it when you signed up. But user interface is the point where the user interacts with the website. It's not really about the concept behind it, which is what UX is. Right, then moving on to what the other basics is how you actually work in a company. So when you get hired as a UX designer, whether this is your first job or whether you're a senior or much later on, then you actually work as part of a team with other designers, developers, scrum masters, product owners, and this is called agile development. So let me show you how the team is built up. So you'll come in as a UX designer, or you could be a UI designer. Then you'll work with other people, which are developers. So a lot of people think UX designers and UI designers need to know code, but in a professional setting, that's actually not true, because you have developers who make the actual thing for you. So you're just the architect, and then they develop it and you can feed back to them, but they really own the building of the process. Then there's testers who actually make sure it works, because if you're designing websites for millions or billions of people, then you need to make sure that they work. Then you'll normally have a scrum master, who's basically the project manager, who'll make sure that everyone's doing the job and there's no problem with anything. And then you'll have someone called the product owner, which is the actual person from the business who owns the project, and they get all the requirements and they let you know what you need to build. So they're effectively above the manager. They belong to the business, and you're kind of like the team, and they let you know what work needs to be done. So for anyone who wants to understand agile software development, I've got this link here. Again, I'll drop it into the chat in a bit, but it just explains what it is. It's kind of a new methodology, which has been around for the past 5 years, but it's hot. Every company in the world uses it pretty much now. So I just thought I'd give you a brief introduction to what agile is. The next basic thing I'm going to talk about is design systems. So design systems are a godsend to a designer. And back in the day, people used to have many different websites. So I used to design Barclays.co.uk, and that might have had 4 or 5 different look and feels. So there was like a Premier for really rich people, there was a normal one, and they all look different. But a design system effectively is a collection of reusable assets that, as a designer, you can use and build stuff really quickly. So I'll probably show you the website in a bit, but there's Google have a really good one, and material.io. So if you're developing something like an app for Google or Apple, then you can actually go onto these websites and you can download stuff from one of the design softwares that you use, and you can build pages really, really quickly, make them look like real websites and apps, because all of the design's done for you. Then you're allowed to create it really quickly, and you can do lots of different ideas. The actual designing of the thing is not really even that hard anymore. It used to be a lot harder when you had to build it all from scratch. I mean, Xavier built R1 for Cisco from scratch in our design tools. So whenever we have something now, it's actually super quick for us to make. But we'll have a look at them in a bit. This is an example of what it looks like with all your components, and you drag and drop them and you put it on. The next basic thing we're going to talk about is accessibility. Now, accessibility is basically making the web available to everyone and making it easy to use. And there's loads of different things, but what I've got on the screen now is it's the tube map for London. And a couple of years ago, they had a brief to make it basically people who suffer from colour blindness couldn't tell the difference between the lines. And what they've produced here is a map where instead of just coloured lines, they've actually got different textures on the lines. So they've got dashes and dots and thick colours and different shades. And that's really what accessibility is all about. It's about making sure that people who have disabilities can use your website. You know, there's things like colours. There's other things like making sure it's technically built right, which is more for developers. But it's just really thinking about other people and making sure what you build everyone can use, and that's really, really important to a designer. So there's a couple of links we're going to have a look at again. One is WebAIM, which tells you all about the standards, and and there's another one which is a contrast checker where it checks your colors and it lets you know if they're accessible. I see a couple of people raising hands, and what I've done is I've opened the chat so anyone can leave messages now, and I'll try and answer your questions as we go through. I know there's a lag as well, so when I hand over to Xavier, I'll probably be quiet for a few seconds because I won't be able to hear it. But just before we get to some of the interesting, another basic thing is the user-centered design process. And just touching on this briefly, this is how someone builds any digital application. So before it gets developed, really, there's 4 stages which any website or app needs to go through. One is research, where there's loads of different tools. You know what, we'll talk about research now. So the goal of research is to understand who you're designing for and what problem you're trying to solve. And there's loads of different techniques in a UX designer's goodie bag, really. The main thing though is to understand the problem that you're trying to get to. And just for an example, there's things called personas that we create. I've got a couple of links which I'll share with you in a minute that tell you how to create personas. They're basically imaginary customers. It's best to understand who you're designing for. So if you have a couple of people, they may be imaginary, they may be based on real people that you can refer back to later on, then it's really good and it's useful throughout the design process to make sure that you're actually catering to these people's needs. There's 2 types of user research. So we're going to talk about quantitative and qualitative. So quantitative is could be like a survey where you want a lot of information from a large amount of people, and qualitative is more personal. So it might be interviews of your customers. When I used to work in Barclays, they had this like glass booth where you could do a user interview. You could get people to have a look at your app and ask them questions. And there's loads of different things in the UX designer's tool bag, and depending on what company you work for, these come up a bit later on. There's some really good links here. One of them is Usability Hub, and Usability Hub is a great place where you can do a lot of these testing online. So what I want to share with you today is lots of links, but I'll go through the presentation first, then I'll come to the links at the end, and we'll have a look at some websites and some examples. This is talking about personas. Then one of the links I want to share with you, it's a really good Flickr link, and I use it whenever I create my personas. I get the images through, put them all together, and it's got loads of free images, and I'll show you how to build them in a bit. Then the next thing I want to talk about is the design phase. So once we know what we're making, then we move on into design phase, and this is where we use different UX tools. So touching briefly onto step 2, which is the tools that we use, and there's 3 main tools in the industry. There's Figma, there's Adobe XD, and there's Sketch. I think Sketch might be $99. Figma is free, and Adobe XD, I think you might need a basic plan, but it's not very expensive, and these are amazing tools. So when I designed Barclays, I used to use Sketch, and each one of them is excellent. So, and each one of them is really easy to use as well. If you've got an experience using Photoshop or anything like that, then these can go up and running. There's plenty of tutorials online, which we'll talk about in a second. The one I personally use for most of my work is Figma. So I think it's something like, just Google Figma design tool, and It's very, very easy to use. There's lots of built-in design systems on Figma.com as well, which you can have. I see people raising hands. If you just drop me a message in the chat, because I don't know how to use this properly, I don't know what to do when someone raises hand. So if someone could help me and let me know what's going on. But they're the 3 best tools. I've actually got a video which I'll share where I compare the tools and go over them. But that video's there. It's like 20 minutes. I go through and I show you what each one's like. Then once you've actually designed it, then you go into a testing phase, and this is where, again, you use online tools. You can use Usability Hub. You basically want to dramatically improve your design, so you'll get something basic together, and almost never is what you design originally what you look like at the end. I mean, Shabby knows this. We'll design something, and then it'll probably get changed 100 times before it becomes real. And the goal of the testing phase is to make sure you talk to as many people as you can. You can do that in person or online, and basically make it as good as possible. Then the last stage is development, where you as a designer hand over your finished design, which you made in Figma and other things, and then it gets made to developers. There's a book that I'm going to share as well here, which is really good if anyone's interested in HTML and CSS. There's an Amazon link. You know, as a designer, I know very, very basic HTML and CSS, but it's good to have a basic understanding and share it with you there. So the next interesting part is your portfolio. So I'm gonna hand it over to Shabby at this point, if you could take over and maybe talk about their experience with building a portfolio.
Okay, hi. So my portfolio, I will share my screen, 1 second. So I can just show you what it is. Okay, so I hand coded my portfolio because I felt this was the easiest way for me, but you can really do it in any way you want. You could do it like in a PDF, or you could do it like using a site builder, like what's it called, WordPress, Adobe Portfolio, or Webflow, which is pretty popular. I did try it with Webflow, but it didn't really work out for me. So for me, like I built this, and for the portfolio, what you need to do is I followed Google's standard for portfolios, and that's usually pretty strict. So if you do follow their standard, I think you have a good chance of getting it up, rather than just put like a blank portfolio. So what you do is you put together 4 projects, or a couple of projects, no more than 6, I would say. So I've got 4 in mind, and then each one is like a case study that you can go through, and like some basic information. So one thing I would say, if you're like looking for a job designing a mobile app, put mobile stuff in there. If you want like a website or something, put web stuff in there. If you want, like, if you like there's a specific industry you want to go for, try to aim your portfolio for that, because usually with employers, what they look at is what experience you have related to their kind of job role or their industry itself. Okay, so each of these 4 things that I've got here are real work that I did, and each of these are case studies. Okay, so I'll just open one up. So when you go into it, there's like a base information about what this actually is, and it's just usually a tagline just to give the other person some idea of it, because it's unlikely, especially with a project like this one, they'll know anything about it or be like used to it at all. So for the portfolio, like usually I start off with the process of like it took me to design the whole thing, and this is pretty much in depth, and it is a big project, and it took a little bit of time. So then there's like the problem, the background, and what you need to do. Talk a little bit about the users and audience, and like the team and the tools. Like did you even collaborate? Who was on the team? And things, and like the methods and stuff that you use. So for this particular one, there's like a mix of things that we use Figma. Then like I did a lot of paper prototyping, but using like iPad and Adobe Sketch, and making like wireframes diagrams and things like that with Miro. So I do write all that stuff down. Then we talk about like how we collaborated and any kind of constraints and things like that. So after that, it's like just a brief idea of what research you did. I mean, you don't need to go in depth, just so the person looking at it can have a look, like you actually do your homework before you just design an app. Like you need to know like who you're building it for, and they like you to understand that. So like you talk to users, did analysis, and then look at the requirements from the users. And this project is pretty big, so I just skipped a lot of things because just no one's going to really read it. And then like we start going through the design and showing how we did the information architecture, like drawing the user flow kind of diagram. So this is a bit of work, and then showed like a small part of it. Then like some more, and then like how we did rapid prototyping. And rapid prototyping is when you quickly design up ideas, and usually I do it with a pen and pencil. You could do it whatever you like, and quickly jot some ideas down, like prototype them and write the pros and cons and just go through them. And they don't need to be neat or anything. Look, like this doesn't look like anything, but it makes sense looking at it from this project perspective. Okay, and then these are like some problems that I found that we needed like solutions for. Okay, and then after that you have your wireframes, which this seems to be broken and I need to fix it. So yeah, okay, I'll work on that. Right, but so yeah, so these are like some examples of wireframes, and then these are like the prototyping, but at a higher level, just to show what it's looking like, and then like some iteration. So how it works is like you do one iteration and you have a discussion with like the team, and you get feedback and things like that, and then you come back to it. Then you make your changes, and then you make another wireframe. Then you go through the process a few times until everyone's like happy with it. Okay, and these are just some areas. And after that, you like look at the visuals, and some things need to be solved by visual design. Like we had, for example, in this, like there's a lot of lines in this, but it's hard to read them. So we kind of came up with like different colored lines, which makes it easier to read them, So they're still problem solving, but you do it through different mediums. Yeah, so I'll just skip through this. And then like the final things is just showing the design and then a few interactions of how things actually work. So you can see how that's actually gone from a sketch to actually like a working examples. So yeah, so once you've kind of gone through and demonstrated your stuff, you can talk about your lessons and outcomes and like, what you expect from the future and how you think this project actually went. Yeah. I'll pass it to Anthony.
Hey, thanks. I just want to apologize again for the delay on this. So when Xavier speaks, I have like 10 seconds and wait for and wait for and wait for it coming. But thanks for sharing with that. So let's just talk about portfolios for a minute. We'll come back to Xavier at the end because I've got lots of questions for her. Right, I can hear myself in my headphones, so I need to switch that off. Right, so let me just share my screen. Right. Get this back up. So for anyone who's joined in the chat, I've just dropped a link to Xavier's profile if you want to go and check it out in your own time. And I've dropped it's about 140 gig, but the actual PDF for this. So if you want to in your own time go back through some of these links, they're all in here. But you saw Xavier's profile, portfolio, and I want to share with you two great places where you can create a portfolio. And as a designer, a portfolio is the most important thing that you need. So you need to remember when you apply for your first job, and we'll talk about how to do that a bit later on, the only thing that people are going to know about you is they're going to see your portfolio, and it needs to they don't know who you are, and this is basically the stepping stone for you getting an interview. So it needs to be really good. You need to put all your effort into it. So the two places I want to share with you now is one is Adobe Portfolio and the other one is Squarespace. So these are people who don't know, you don't need to know how to build your own website. And at the end of the day, it's no better custom coding your own website. I know it's cool to do HTML and CSS and build it, but you just want to produce a website at the end of the day. And you want to get something live, and Adobe Portfolio is great. So it's a super small fee. They've got loads of templates. It's built for designers, and you can go on over there. And I think if you're part of one of the cheap price things that they have over there, you get it for free. And I think you can start for free and get like a month or something like that. But I definitely encourage you to check Adobe Portfolio out. And today, start your portfolio, even if it's got nothing in it. We need something to work towards and build. And this portfolio is what we're going to do all our example projects, and we're going to put them in this. And this is what we're going to send to employers to get you a job at the end of it. Squarespace is also really, really good. So you'll probably hear about these builders. There's other ones. Squarespace is one of the biggest. And I actually had to go. I made a video about it, and we went through and we built a portfolio in it, and it did it in like half an hour. It was really good. Maybe Shabia in a bit can tell you about how she built hers. But if you want to see some other examples of portfolios, then go actually onto Behance. So Behance is a great place where it's kind of like a social media for designers. So your portfolio, it can live on your own website, like Shabia's is shabias.com, and mine's it's anthonyconboy.com. But you can actually create a profile on Behance, and you can have a website as well, but I think you should have both. And it's a place where people can leave comments on your work. You can get inspiration from other designers. It's definitely a good place to check out. I put a lot of my work on this, so whenever I finish a project, I normally package it up in Photoshop, write about it like Shabby did, and then drop it onto my portfolio and on Behance. So that's just a really good thing for you to do. So the next step we're going to talk about, which is really important. So the goal of this hour is basically to get you from no experience to some experience. And that's the hardest step in your career. Once you have your first job as a junior UX designer, you're kind of often running and you can do it. But how do you go from nothing to something? And that is through example projects. So this is where I want to point you over to a couple of things. So one is my own website, which is anthonyconboy.com. And I've actually put together 17 sample projects. And this takes you through, we have a brief on there. There's a persona, an example user journey. Then you'll actually see me take the brief and design a website, maybe through like 5 or 6 different videos, and I'll share the prototype with you. And what you can do is you can follow along and actually build these websites. So here's an example of one that we did together in the video. So I wrote 17 briefs effectively to get you started. So this was one for a shoe company called Blackout. I give you links to images in there, everything, and you can just like there's a persona in there as well. So you can get your persona, you can get your prototype, you can build it together in Adobe XD or Figma. You can look at how I do it. So and then follow along. But all of this, here's another example one that we did, which was a website for I think it was a restaurant or something like that. But the idea is you need to have something in that portfolio. So now you've got that portfolio as a base. Example projects are a really great way to start because in real life, when you have a job, some of the projects might take a year. And with these example projects, because the thing that takes a long time when you're building stuff is the back and forth and the changes. And that's something that you write about in your case study. But with example projects, you definitely want to pack a portfolio out with maybe 5 or 6, spend all your time doing them, make them look great. But this is just a sneak peek of what's on my website, and I'll talk about it at the end about how you can sign up and join along with me. But I just want to jump back to Shabia in a sec. So I had case study next, but she actually already showed you what she put together. So I just want to ask her, what does she think about example projects, and does she have any advice at this point?
Yeah, so I think it's a good idea to do example projects, and I definitely do it. And this is something I did start off with. So I used to sometimes make up like a problem or something, and then I'll redesign it. And as long as you put your process and your thinking and how you solve problems, that's what employers look for. So I think it's good. If you don't have anything, it is good to start off like that. Yeah.
Right, okay. Again, apologies for the delay. I'm just watching Shabia sitting there while my audio is coming through. But again, okay, so now we've got a portfolio and we've got some example projects in there, and you've written it up kind of like Shabia's done. You know, you can include your sketches. Just because the brief's there doesn't mean you can't do some of this stuff. But next is how to promote yourself. So this is important actually before you kind of get a job, because employers now don't just look at your website and your portfolio, they look at social media. It's crucially important, and actually there's never been a better time. So the two things that if you're not on, you need to get on straight away are LinkedIn and on YouTube. And this is probably the best advice I'd give to myself 10 years ago, what I should have started. A lot of people use social media in the wrong way. There's a lot of like, you'll look at LinkedIn and there's a lot of not useless content, but like not interesting stuff, people talking about themselves a lot. If you use these platforms to educate people, even if you're not the best and you're a junior, but you learned something today, like you learned a great place to get images from, or you learned that Figma was the best tool, you could make a little 1-minute video. Like I'm doing this on my iMac, just using the camera, talking through a microphone. You could post that to LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is actually, it's the best platform to get content out to a wide variety of people. It's actually really easy. YouTube, you know, you can get, I think one of my videos that I did 3 years ago has got like nearly 1 million views, and it's like, it took me a couple of days to put together. And actually I've probably done over 100 videos on YouTube, and I find that actually the lowest quality ones actually get the best. So you don't need the best studio. This is just me kind of in the garage talking. But it's about the quality of content, and you need to realize that nobody knows you exist until you publish some work. And that's just the truth. So start publishing work, even if it's just one post a day on LinkedIn, even just encouraging other people to get into design, showing your love and passion for the subject. What people will do is when you apply for a job, which we'll talk to at the end, they will look on your LinkedIn and they will look on your YouTube channel if you have one, and it's a good place to get your personality across. You need to think your portfolio, it'll have your work, but a lot of the time you hire people because you like them, and that's just the truth, and you like the personality. And the only way to get that across really is video, and a lot of people are shy on video, and I was certainly shy when I did my first video 3 years ago. I got an American guy to do a voiceover because I have such a thick Liverpudlian accent, people couldn't understand me, and I was very nervous to do those videos, but I actually found that people preferred it when I was doing it, and those videos got a lot more likes than the ones I thought were really slick and polished with the American guy. So I guess that just, when people first start liking your videos, you get a lot more confidence. And actually, you might not like, some people can make a career out of this. You could build your own online business. You could promote it through video. Like, there's so much opportunity now by using video on these two platforms, and it lives forever. You can even make a little bit of income on the side by doing 10 minutes of video a day. You never know which ones are popular, and you also don't need to be the best designer in the world. You just need to teach something, a little tiny thing, and they'll be grateful to you forever. Like, I just wanted to show this is like my YouTube. You know, you can make a tan. You don't go in for the money. You don't make that much. But I wanted to show you honestly what it's like on the analytics. You can see videos that I had like years ago are still coming through. It's just a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun, to be honest. And there's other platforms like Skillshare and Udemy. So you could do a little course like I'm doing. Just film it on your computer, teach something, and you'll grow an audience. And with that audience, you'll become well known, and that will help you get into the next section, which is finding a job. So I've actually got a question for Shabia, and that is, how did you get into UX? And how did you get your first job? If you could share it with that while I get a couple of things sorted, that'd be great.
No worries. Okay, so how I got into UX, it's very conventional. I did computer science at university, and I really enjoyed the design side of building apps, to the point I actually would do other people's homework because I just liked it. I would do design their entire front end, sometimes even build it, but I just enjoyed it. So, and that was like a cue for me to know that this is kind of what I wanted to do. So at university, all the work that we did is pretty much exactly the same as working in software industry. You get a brief, then you have to design some software, and so I built my portfolio from all my university projects, and they weren't great, but when I did, that's the way I got interviews, and I learned that quite early on, that you always need a portfolio. And in the interviews, they said they decided to interview me because of my portfolio, so that was pretty good. So at the time, there wasn't really like a lot of UX jobs or anything like that, because that's more in the last like 5 years, 6 years. That's gone quite heavy. So I actually started as a front-end developer that focused on design. And then because I enjoyed doing the design side and showing, then I made some nice UIs visually. And so I pretty like slowly transitioned into a full design role. So yeah.
Right, I'm going to take over now. I know Shabia stopped speaking. I didn't hear the last couple of seconds of what she was what she was saying, but I want to share a couple of things with you. So let me just let me hop on over to my. I want to share Google Chrome. I've got loads of links for you, and I want to show you how to get your first job. But I also just want to quickly show you that UX is an extremely profitable industry to be in. Don't go in it just for the money, but you can see here. You know, £500 to £700 in the UK. I think that's totally realistic for now to be a UX designer. I think the average in America is $90,000, and there's effectively two different job types that you can get, and this is something that people don't teach you. So you can be a full-time employee, which is where you get a salary like $90,000 and you'll get all the benefits for your company. But in the UK and the US, there's also another thing called contracting, which is where you get paid a day rate. So say here you've got £500 to £600 a day. You get paid that. You're effectively a small business by yourself. So you have to pay business tax. You have to set up properly and do things like that. And you'll normally get 3 to 6 month contracts, and they roll on. But I think the way the industry is changing now is contracting is not. It's kind of dying out because of a law that was introduced in the UK, but it's still very much prevalent in America. It's more, obviously you make more money when you're in contracting, but obviously it's a short-term thing. It's 3 to 6 months, and then you might get moved on after that, or you might have to change quickly. So if you're in a big city with lots of different companies to work for, maybe just getting a small contract is a good way into the industry. But I just want to show you how to hack your way into the industry effectively. So how I got my first job was, it was an internship. So I was very lucky because my teacher at college, his cousin was married to the creative director of Vogue in the UK. So because I stood out in college and I was good at design at the time, I was very, very lucky to get an internship for 3 weeks. But from that 3-week internship, I effectively, Condé Nast is a company where there's like 10 magazines in it. I went to each floor, I introduced myself, and I basically asked them if I could go and work for free there. So from that 3-week internship, I then got work in Ferrari magazine, in Wired magazine, in GQ magazine. I even followed the creative director to a photo shoot that he went on, and I asked the photographer for internship. So I probably had a total of maybe 20 weeks internship. And from that internship, Wired then had a position for a designer to design the iPad edition of the magazine that you see behind me on the wall, which was about 11 years ago. And because I knew the people in the magazine, and I just been a Condé Nast for over the summer for like 2 or 3 years, I got the job not based on applying for it. I got it because I was in the building, and internships are by far the best way to do it. Like, to be honest, not many junior roles come up. So I just wanted to share my experience with internships are by far the best way to do it. And if you go on LinkedIn and you search for, so I've just searched an UX internship in the San Francisco Bay Area, and you could do that. You know, you could do that for London. There is some internships on there, but a lot of internships might be not even advertised. So just here, if you type in UX designer, then on LinkedIn, there's like thousands of UX designers who come up, and you can connect to them and you can send them messages and you can ask them if there's any internships available. It's not for everyone because you don't get paid, but I just wanted to be realistic and tell you how I got into the industry. Like, I slept in a hostel for probably 6 months because I had no money when I went down to London. But I knew that getting the internship was my kind of side door into the industry because it's so competitive. Look at this graph. So I want to show you this. This is Google Trends, and Google Trends is an amazing website where you can type in search terms and you can see how popular they are over time. But look, so when I got my first job, you know, like UX was like free, and now look at it now. It's like it's up in the hundreds. So the way I think is a good way into the industry is have your portfolio, have your example projects, then just try different methods. Try, if you live in a big city, send someone a message and say, do you want to go for a coffee? And then just like, really, UX designers don't get that many emails off random people. I certainly don't. I don't know if Xavier does. But you know, if someone sent me a message, say, hey, do you want to go for a coffee? And then, you know, I might be head of UX design and I might say, okay, come and do some internships. Like I had 3 students from my previous college who came and did internships with me last year. And that's just a way that you can get actual work into your portfolio. And then, you know what, you might be lucky and you might get a job or you might not, but you'll stand out from the person who's then applying for the junior role. Xavier, what do you think about internships? Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Like, I think you've covered most things, but I think they're doing like free work. Like, even if you don't want to do something like physically, like go into a job, you can also, you know, advertise your work like on, like there's online places like Upwork and stuff like that, and do work for really cheap or even free. And this is a good way to get real life experience and build a portfolio as well. So I always agree with, like, you know, if you can get some work in, internships or doing free works, or like just doing like really cheap work, I think it's just really excellent. And people want to know what you can do, and you need to figure out what you can do. And if you can do that through internship, it's great.
Right. So one thing I just wanted to share with you before we open up the Q&A is I just wanted to go through what's actually in my thing. So I'm going to post a link in the chat in a minute, and it's 50% off, and it's valid for an hour after this call. And this is not for everyone. This is only for people who want to go a little bit further and are more serious about putting a portfolio together. So the link's valid for an hour, and it's access to my full course online. And I get a bit embarrassed when I try and market it, but I put like over a year of my life into this, and there's 24 hours of content on there. So if you don't mind, I'll just quickly tell you what's in there if you were interested in it and you wanted to go a bit further. So just quickly going through it, there's 17 projects. So, you know, you can see here, there's videos where you click on it, and I actually analyze from the brief. I analyze different websites which are very, very similar to it. So the first one is a brief for an e-commerce website, and I give you a persona, a user journey that you can make your own version of, and then I go through and actually design a website. So you can see here, we made that website together, but you can see how I actually design it and I think about websites. And it will just give you some experience in your portfolio. Then there's other sections where we cover the basics again, like what we've done, but a bit slower. We talk about UX versus UI, which one's right for you. There's so much content in here. We go through user research, how to do that. There's some cool projects as well, like there's this game streaming application which we put together. Real fun things. And if you send me them, I don't mind giving you my advice on and feedback about what you've put together. Then we talk about UI design, color theory, how colors apply, where to find great images online. There's tutorials in Adobe XD, there's tutorials in Figma. We talk about design trends. Like I've got like an hour here on different design trends about how you can apply those styles, testing. You know, there's hundreds of tutorials, and there's a section where I go through the world's best websites and I break them down. So I look at Amazon, Nike, and explain to you from a designer's point of view why these websites are so good. And then there's a whole section here on how to get a job, where I basically just try and build your confidence up and explain to you that anyone can do it. We go over interview questions, how to prepare for interview, how to get motivation, how to take action. And again, then there's loads of questions and answers. Every question you've had about UX answered. And then at the end, there's just loads more tutorials for you to do. So I'm gonna drop a link in the chat now. It's valid for an hour. It's 50% off. If you're interested, take it. And what I'll do as well is for everyone on this call, if you want to try it within 7 days and you don't like it, just send me an email to anthony@anthonyconboy.com and I'll just give you a full refund, no questions asked, because I want you to enjoy it. So you can take it as a free trial if you're interested. So I'm going to open up the Q&A. Xavier, have you got any questions you want answered, or anyone in the chat, please drop some questions. I've got a list of some, but maybe Shabby can have a think, or I can ask what a day in the life of a UX designer is and why should people be excited about getting into UX design, while I pull this link up and drop it in.
Yeah. So Anthony, I have a question for you. So in your opinion, because the big thing about this job is that you're always going to be working with people. So in your opinion, what do you think makes a great team?
Right, so this is actually probably one of the most important things that juniors should know. UX design is not that hard. So it's actually, technically it's not that hard. You can learn the skills on how to make a website quite quickly. That's why they have courses which last you can do a course in 24 hours or something like that. What the skill is whether you're a nice person or not. I like working with Xavier because she's nice, and we have to work together every day. And sometimes some people are better at things. Like she's like, I'm more visual. Xavier thinks about things more, and she's better at the details. And I've worked with people before who are the best technically in the world, but maybe they're a bit arrogant, or they're a bit. I'd honestly hire someone who wasn't as technically good as someone else because I liked them, because they came across as warm, and because I wanted to work with them. I've got to work with you for the next 3 years. Like, I really think it's important to have a nice person, and I think that's why you should showcase your, you know, on videos. You should do like YouTube and stuff and get your personality across in your portfolio and embed them. Shabby, what do you think is good? What would you look for in hiring someone?
Yeah. So again, very similar. Like, first thing, obviously, if they have the skills, and you judge that by their portfolio, and then, you know, making sure they can understand how to actually design something. And then after that, after the first interview, where I really find, you know, at the point of the portfolio, if they can do the job or not. So you really, what you're after from the interview for me is if the person is nice to get along with. And I've had several experiences with different types of people. And like Anthony said, like, someone can be really good. And even like, I used to work with a very good like visual designer, but he was really hard to work with, and he made stuff hard, you know. But with somebody who's easy to work with and quite personable, you end up working really well together. Then you end up like building the best kind of design, you know. And your aim really is to get out the best project. And and people, you need to be able to take feedback as well. So if you can't take feedback, it's going to be really hard, because this job, everyone, like all the managers, business people, everybody has an opinion on the design, and you shouldn't really get offended by their opinion, but you got to be able to work with people really well.
Thanks, Shabby. I've actually got a question for you. I'll answer it first. So it says most companies require HTML and CSS skills. Is it really necessary to have them? So no, it's not, because I don't know how to code a website. I didn't learn that stuff until like 10 years into my career. And here's the truth. Companies will put out a job description, right? And this job description will be like, we need a UX unicorn who can do CSS, who can do all this stuff. But like, to be honest, the people who write it don't even know what the words mean. Like, I've seen some job descriptions, and I've seen some people like hired for the job descriptions, and they're like, well, I don't do it. Like, they're like, why is the job nothing like them? It's because companies have a template that they put out. You don't need to know them, in my opinion, because you have developers who do them. And Shabir actually came from a development background into UX, whereas I came from a graphic design background into UX, and I'll talk about that in a second for one of the questions. But what do you think, Shabir? Do you think you need to know them? And actually, we don't.
No, but no, you don't. But it kind of does help to have an understanding of technology, like how like a browser works and things like that. You don't need to know HTML, CSS. Like, the only thing I would recommend is that you own like a couple of devices, like not everything on like iOS. So you can see from the user's perspective how they use things, and that'll make you a better designer. And the only thing about HTML and CSS, it could, in the past, it probably used to help just like talking to the developers about what you intend. But now, because Figma and tools like Figma and stuff are so good, that you can literally design what you think and they'll get it straight away. So less and less now.
So one of the questions that says how to be a UX designer from graphic designer. And so you can see the magazine behind me. I started as actually a magazine designer in print. So the first thing I ever made professionally was it was for Ferrari, the cars, and I did a page in the magazine, and I was so proud when I saw it. But unfortunately, you had to own a Ferrari to get the magazine, so not many people saw it. But I then went from that into like a hybrid role, which was making iPad magazines, which was taking print and putting it onto digital format. When actually it was kind of like, the reason that industry died is because websites came about. But you know what? You can come into UX from two different backgrounds. You can come into it from a design background, and so when I design stuff, I focus a lot more on the visual style. And because you work in a team, you work with someone. So I work with Shabia, and she comes from a development background, so she thinks about stuff differently. But you can come to it from a graphic design background. Those skills are really helpful, and you can put together, instead of doing wireframes, you can do high fidelity wireframes and make them look like real websites. So I do a lot of that stuff. Shabia thinks about stuff, makes it work. So yeah, you can come into it from a load of different backgrounds, because it's not actually technically that hard. It's more about you as a person being empathetic and understanding how to build a website. So I'm just going to quickly go through a couple more questions. So Shabia, what's your best tool for design apps?
For me, Figma, hands down. There is no better tool. I've used things from Photoshop and Sketch and things like that. Like, I've used so many tools, but Figma is like really good, because you can do your entire prototype in Figma and do the interactions, and then like do a developer handoff as well. So it's like, it's got everything in it.
So thanks, Shabia. I have to kind of cut in halfway because my headphones are delayed. I'm still getting like the first bit of your answer, but I'm sure you do. You sure you know what you're talking about? One of the next questions is, do you know whether it's different skills to design on iOS or Android? No, it's the same skills. So let me just share. I want to share some with you, and I'll share my. Let me share my Google Chrome and show you. So here's something I made earlier. So this is material.io, right? And this is Google Design Language. On this website, you can actually download a UI kit, which has everything that Google needs for you to build websites. Here's Apple's human interface guidelines. You can download stuff from there. So I want to share with you. I want to share my Figma. 1 second, if I can pull it up. So this is my Figma account. This is what it looks like when you download it. So you'll get these pages, and literally to make an app, all you do is you basically copy a page, change it across, and change the text, and then link it all up. It's super easy. But to design on iOS or Android, it's the same. You just get the UI kit, you spend time to read the stuff, and then put something together. Shelby, have you got any questions that you think would be useful for people to know?
So there's some questions on the QA. Like if you click on QA at the bottom of the screen, and someone's asking how to be more social on LinkedIn. If you want to go through that, Anthony's good at this.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll answer that one. So on LinkedIn, basically, don't talk about yourself. Teach people. So if you go through your LinkedIn feed tonight and have a look, basically I don't like it when people show off. Oh, look how great my company is. We've given everyone the day off. Like, those are just self-promotion posts. What you want to do is use these platforms to teach people. So teach people how to just share. Like, people love links. Say, I found a really great link today. Here's a place where you can get really good images. And you know what? You'll get a lot more likes, and people will start coming to you as an expert, even though you're not. You should share what you learn. Let's have a look at the questions. There seems to be one that's about 1,000 times, which is how to prototype in Figma. I'll let Shabby answer. That's actually quite easy. It doesn't take that long to learn, does it?
I would say if you do the course, Anthony's course, you will find out how to prototype in Figma, but it's actually really easy. You know, Like you could download a UI kit, or you can draw all the graphics and stuff yourself. Each page, there's pages in there, and you can draw screens. So each screen is every view on your app, and then you use the interaction tools to link them. So, and that's very, very brief, but if you do the course, you will find out exactly how to prototype in Figma. You know, I can't really just speak about it this quick. Okay, there's another question. So what to do if you have no college degree? I think you do not need a college degree to get this job. Like if you can prove you're a really good designer through your portfolio, like I've looked at loads of CVs, I do not check if they got a degree or not. I don't. And I think some companies will ask for college degree, but I think it's more and more common now that people don't ask for it. So without it, just make sure you get your experience up and it shows through your portfolio. Like if you can get some, like do some internships or like cheap work or anything like that, and actually showcase that you're solving problems through design, and that would be pretty good.
Thanks, Ross. No, yeah, I really don't think you need a degree. To be honest, I spent 3 years getting a degree, and literally nobody ever asked me for it in like 15 years of my thing. I think I've still got it somewhere sitting in the sitting in the drawer. But you don't need it. You just need to be a good person, have a good portfolio, be cheeky, you know, send people messages, and just I'm just gonna read a couple of the questions. So the complete roadmap to UX and UI. So I'm just going to post again in the chat. I feel really bad doing this, but please, I put a lot of effort into it. Check out my course. Really, again, if you don't like it, I'll give you a refund without asking any questions in 7 days. It's got 24 hours of content. Like if you think you've got a lot from this hour, it's me speaking a lot more slowly, actually thinking about what I'm saying, and going through all tutorials, going through everything that you need. You can learn all that stuff. It's not technically hard. It's basically, and I know starting a new career from scratch is really hard. And it's basically, I want to give you confidence so you can go out and be cheeky and ask people for work experience and put stuff together and know what you need to, like, all you need to do is understand how to use the tools, which is very, very simple. Understand the theory of how websites work, very, very simple. Self-promote yourself on LinkedIn and YouTube, and then put together a prototype of loads of example projects, and then let people know you exist, which is the most important thing. When you've got that portfolio, don't just stop it there. Nobody cares about you, no one knows about you until you start producing content and contacting people and saying, hey, let me come and work for you. And then you'll eventually get it if you keep at it. Let me just ask Shelby this: what are the key principles of UX and UI? We've gone over by a minute. Yeah. We'll probably finish in this in a second. Is there anything you can help on that?
So mainly, the key principle is actually like what problem you're trying to solve for your user, and like what action you want them to perform. So like an easy thing is like, so you have this app that you want people to download, right? So, and they're looking at it, and then how do you get them to actually click download and then sign up? And it's designing that whole process, and it will require like the steps, which is the UX and what information somebody puts in. And then the visual elements, like how does the brand make the person feel? And then the use of colors and things to just promote the call to action. So like if the button that you want people to actually click is a color they can't see, they're not going to sign up. So you need to work with colors and things to make that process work. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. But you're doing that on a large scale.
Okay, guys, we've actually gone over by 3 minutes, so I'm gonna end it there. I'd really, you know what, people have actually stayed with us for the whole thing, so thank you again to everyone who stayed. I hope you've got something for this. I apologize for the sound delay. This is the first time I've ever used Zoom, and maybe the last. But thank you again. Thank you to Shabia for being such a great guest and helping me out, so I didn't have to mumble along by myself. Again, the link to the course is below. It's 50% off for an hour. There's only 20 available, and there's more than that on this and the YouTube. So if you want to get it. And again, I'll give you a refund if you email me at anthony@convoy.com within 7 days and you're not into it. But any questions, drop me them after you've got my email address. And I hope you enjoyed it. Again, Shabia, any last any last words? But thank you everyone for staying with us.
No, it's been great. So no last words, but it's been really nice, and best of luck to all you guys. You know, like, it's a really good career to go into. It pays pretty well, and it's basically a creative job that pays well, and you get loads of free times and time to explore your ideas and things like that. So yeah, so definitely worth it. It's probably, I'm biased, but when I speak to people about their jobs, I would say I've probably got one of the best jobs.
Thanks, Xavier. Again, for anyone who wants to keep in touch with us, just go on LinkedIn. Well, Xavier might post their LinkedIn in the room. You've probably got mine.
Yeah.
You know, send us messages, keep in touch, and I wish you all the best in your careers. I hope you got something for today, and I'll end this call in a second when Xavier posts their LinkedIn, so you can keep in touch with her. But again, you can just go on my one and search for Xavier. She's probably one of the only ones on there. Let me just pull it up and drop it in.
I got it.
Thank you, everyone, and there you go. Xavier's in there. If you guys go to the top of the chat and you haven't got the PDF from earlier in the presentation, you can download it now, and I'll probably send a recording out of this. And take care. That's it. That's it from me. Thank you very much.
Right.
See you guys later. Bye.
Bye.